So with the addition of Town Hall 18 and the possibility of a meta shift, which happens every time there's a new Town Hall level with new troop additions, I've had the unfortunate pleasure of discovering a major flaw in the hero equipment upgrade system. I invested a ton of ore into abilities that I no longer need. And this isn't just about making bad decisions on my part. Let me explain. So this is my very first village that I created back in 2013. And I played it religiously over the last 12 years or so. Now, last year, I got a little distracted by making content for lower level players like Town Hall 13s, 14, 15s, and I kind of let this account go to the wayside. I wasn't doing daily star bonuses, I wasn't participating in clan war, it was just a little bit too much for my workload to maintain, so it did fall behind. However, if you do watch my channel, you know that it stopped at Town Hall 16, and then we spent a bunch of magic items and had a ton of fun getting it up to Town Hall 17 prior to the release of Town Hall 18. And then we recklessly spent a bunch of money on the release of the update, and here we are. We got the account back into the meta at the highest level. Pretty much. We're just a little behind on our rank battle. We're still in Electro 32, but the village itself is a strong Town Hall 18 now. I did log in during the time away from the game, and I did complete those medal events in the past by unlocking the snake bracelet, spiky ball, magic mirror, action figure. A lot of the epic abilities, we do have all of them unlocked, and we did not need to spend gems because we just logged into the village to get them for free during those events. However, we have to take into consideration that most players out there do not grind Clash of Clans as hardcore as those of you that are watching right now. I mean, you got to think about this. A lot of players are more casual type players. They log in, they develop their villages by upgrading defenses because they're cheap. Gold is a lot easier to get. They're not in tune with what the popular strategies are, nor are they upgrading hero abilities that necessarily matter. Like, think about this. A new player that starts the game gets offered things like the Barbarian King's Barb Puppet, and they also unlock the Rage Vial. They unlock things like the Earthquake Boots, which is useful, but they have those common abilities, and that's where they're dumping their ore. They're not thinking like 6 or 7 months from now or a year from now on the possibility of unlocking an epic ability that is very useful at the highest level in the game, right? They're normally just kind of focused on those common abilities. Then we have those of you that are more hardcore, you watch a lot of content and you're in the know on what the popular meta strategies are, you know what pieces of equipment you should be upgrading, and we have to think about this system as being a way to punish players unintentionally, whether you're casual or you're hardcore, just in different types of ways. So let me show you an example of this. When I got to Town Hall 17 and we completed that video, I got back into tune on what was the popular strategies at the time. And those two strategies were the Root Riders and the dragon-based armies. Now, Root Rider armies required the Barbarian King because he was used in funneling purposes, and the dragon armies required the Minion Prince because it goes really well with the dragons, with the addition of the Dark Orb as well as the Dark Crown abilities. And so if you notice, I chose to go with the dragon spam style army, which was the royal champion charging in and taking out buildings under invisibility, and then a lot of times recalling her back to send with the dragons. The Minion Prince ability is level 20 for the Dark Crown, level 18 for the Dark Orb, and we also unlocked the Meteor Staff because I thought it was really cool, because it is really cool. It's got a great animation, but I added 7 levels to that as well. All 3 of those abilities are completely useless now, because if we fast forward to Town Hall 18, I went into Clan War Leagues with that dragon spam mindset after getting into Town Hall 18, and I tried it out on the first couple of wars, and you're going to notice that I have really low percentages using the Dragon Spam army, and this base isn't even close to max. It does have the Revenge Tower, but everything else is not even upgraded yet. We have the 2 Super Wizard Towers. We do have a level 5 Guardian, but everything else is not even close to max. So in reality, the Dragon Spam army should have been quite successful on 3-starring this base, at least you would think. But I quickly discovered that there were better options. So I went back to the drawing board and I did some research, and I realized that the top players up in Legends League and our pro type players were using things like Root Rider still, and they were using this new army right here, which is the Meteor Golem. Now, the thing that a lot of players out there don't realize is that with the Root Riders, or in this case, the Meteor Golems, the Barbarian King replaces the Minion Prince. So if we dumped a bunch of ore in on our Minion Prince abilities, in most cases, the Barbarian King's abilities get kind of left behind, right? And that's exactly what actually happened here, is that my Barbarian King has Snake Bracelet and Spiky Ball, and they seem like they're decent leveled, but in reality, the Snake Bracelet needs to be about level 21 because we're kind of dealing with those modifiers up in the higher leagues of ranked battles. And the Archer Queen's abilities are also very much behind with the Magic Mirror at level 11 and the Action Figure at level 14, because with Dragons, the Queen, I was using Giant Arrow and Healer Puppet. Lots of success, regardless of what you think. I was 3-starring very easily with those abilities. But now I need the Magic Mirror and the Action Figure upgraded, and we're not even close. We got a long ways to go. That's a lot of ore for 3 or 4 different abilities that we don't have. And we dumped ore into other places as well, like the Invisibility Vial. I finished that one out a few years back. The Frozen Arrow, 27 levels on the Frozen Arrow, and I don't even use it anymore. I mean, can you imagine if I could shift that level over to one of the other abilities? That would be phenomenal. So that sent me straight back to the decision I made a few months ago. If I wanted to be more competitive long term, I should have learned the Root Rider army instead of the Dragon Spam army. And this might be something that translates to a lot of you guys as well, because if you're playing down in like Town Hall 15, 16, and even Town Hall 17, Dragon Spam works perfectly. It's actually a lot easier to maneuver as a newer player or more casual player. It gets the 3 stars, but it doesn't always translate if you do plan to get more competitive in the game. And that's something that some of you might not even realize yet. You might be feeling like you're going to get there one day, but you might be upgrading stuff that doesn't matter like I did. So here's the real problem with hero equipment, is that the acquisition of ore is a little too structured right now. And you get ore by completing the daily star bonus, which is also based on the league that you're currently in. If you're in lower leagues, you're not getting much ore at all each time you complete a daily star bonus. However, if you're in the higher leagues, you're collecting a decent amount. You get ore from participating and winning in clan war, and then you also have the options in the trader. You'll notice that I bought up all of the ore options here in the medal event because I need to upgrade my abilities. But then there's also the options of your weekly raid medals that you can use to buy starry and glowy ore. And the same thing applies to gems if you are buying gem packs in the game as well. There's really no other way to fix the levels of your hero abilities with the swipe of a credit card. Like, it's not like you can go into the shop and buy a massive pack of ore to use on your abilities. I mean, they do have those special offers every couple months, but it's not something that you can just go into a tab and buy just like that and fix your abilities. And they also don't have an option to where you can shift ore from one ability over to a different ability. And I think that would be a really decent fix, actually. Let's say that I go into my abilities and I don't use the Dark Crown anymore, and I want all of the ore associated with that level 20 Dark Crown. I can reduce it back down to level 1 and shift that ore over to my Barbarian King. I think that would be a reasonable thing that they could add, but that's really up to them, of course. And I'm only mentioning this because we know at this point the Clash of Clans tends to release a new Town Hall level every 12 months. They've done so for the last 3 or 4 years. They also have this defense, the crafted defense, that changes what they are every 3 months or 4 months or so. And what this creates is a change in meta every couple months or every year. So what we're upgrading today might not be effective in the future. And this kind of sets everybody back if you spend a bunch of your hard-earned ore on something that's no longer relevant in the next year. It can be very frustrating to a lot of players. Essentially, you're being punished for not playing perfectly since the introduction of hero equipment, right? Because there are players out there that I've seen on Reddit that have fully maxed out all their pieces of equipment, and that's because they more than likely have been playing since the introduction of hero equipment back in 2023. But that might not be the case for everybody out there, and that's something that needs to be made aware, is that what works for somebody that has grinded the game every single day might not work for somebody that's been casually playing for the last couple of months or so, right? There are some unintended consequences going on here. Now, I don't know whether it was intentional by the developer, because I know for a fact that they want players to try new strategies and experiment, and that's because they did remove training time. They changed the interface for the training of strategies, meaning that you don't have to wait on armies, and they want you to try new stuff and experiment with new stuff, and that works out great if you have the hero ability levels that go with those heroes that fall into those armies. I mean, cool, you went into your laboratory, you maxed out all your troops, but you still have under-leveled abilities. You're not going to have the same results of something that you're going to see from a top player who's fully maxed out in the game. But this issue bounds players to use the army that they upgraded the equipment for. So in my case, because of my hero equipment levels, I should still be using Dragon Spam Army, but that might not be effective up in Electro 32, and it's definitely not going to be effective once I cross into Electro 33 and even Legends League, because a lot of Legends League players right now are using Root Riders or Meteor Golem strategies, and I'm sure there's still some that are using dragons, but they might not be as successful as those that are in tune with what's working in the meta. I don't want to think that the developer designed this system to be punishing, but unfortunately it's starting to go that way as time passes and they introduce new pieces of equipment that are basically distractions. No offense, I love new abilities, don't get me wrong, but each time there's a new piece of equipment released, everybody kind of gravitates and looks at it. You're like, oh man, I gotta have it and I want to upgrade it, but it might not even be effective. I mean, it could, but you don't know that for a couple of months until it's been tested by the top players in the game, and then by then you got to shift your ore to that piece of equipment and try to play catch up, right? Currently, I'm using the Fireball Meteor Golem strategy. Thankfully, I did just manage to upgrade the Fireball sometime last year. I don't know why I did, because I wasn't using it, and I'm still learning the mechanics of that strategy. But I'm also using abilities that are seriously under-leveled with this army, with the Barbarian King and the Archer Queen. Now, I have been successful. Don't get me wrong. Don't take this the wrong way as I'm like just sitting here complaining, because I did have 2 really nice 3 stars when I swapped to this army, even with under-leveled abilities, although I think I did have a Mighty Morsel in this attack. Yeah, I was using a Mighty Morsel in that attack, but on day 7, I did manage to go into battle with the under-leveled abilities, and I was still successful getting the 3-star on this base right here, which was also not fully maxed out by any means, but it was a different design that I had to negotiate and learn how to place the fireball correctly, because it's not an easy task if you don't know how to do it. So what you need to understand is that hero equipment turns every upgrade into a long-term commitment. The game does not always give you a way out when the meta changes. So you really need to make sure that you're looking at your armies and determine, is this something that you're going to be using in the future, or are you wasting ore on useless abilities? Now, this might be something that changes in the future, and the only reason I wanted to make this video is because I wanted to raise awareness of this situation, because I could not just fix my abilities by spending some money, and that was a little frustrating for me, although that might not be frustrating to some of you, of course, but it is something that says, okay, this is a bit of a problem.